Do I believe in the supernatural? That's a fairly loaded question for a video with this title, so we'll deal with that another day. Come with me. This is the piano. It works. If you've never seen something haunted, welcome. This is your first supernatural experience. Oh. It's not the piano that's haunted though. Keep the piano in mind though, and come with me. Hi, you might remember me from earlier, and can you see that mist coming in? Maybe my camera's old and fogging up, but I think it's the supernatural coming for me. They don't want this truth revealed to the public. Now, do you remember that piano from earlier? Oh. Well, when I was little, it was here. It covered this wall to this wall. Do you know what that means? That means right back here, there's a space. There's a space where you can hide behind. Well, you or the supernatural. Let me explain. When I was little, waking up from a nap was pretty much the worst thing that could happen. Not much has changed from today, when waking up from a nap is still the worst thing that can happen. I'm grumpy, I'm tired, and I just want to go back to sleep. But one day, when I was between the ages of 5 and 8, everything changed. You'll notice now that the fog is really getting bad. I don't know if I'm going to be able to tell this story to its rightful end before the supernatural come in. If you're there, bugger off. I've got a story to tell and I will tell it. Damn you. Now I've told you. Once upon a time, everything changed. Do I still wake up from naps grumpy, irritable, and only wanting to go back to sleep? Yes, I do. So not much has actually changed, but one thing changed. My perspective. Walking out from my nap, this room was dark because it's an old house and it's usually dark in here. It was around 3, 4 o'clock. I was tired, grumpy and irritable, and I was making my way through the house calling out, "Hello? Hello?" Nobody answered, and then from this corner here, right about from back here, came a noise. Music. How could there be music from a house that was empty? Come with me. I think they might be coming. That or my cat doesn't know where I am. Come with me. And just like that, the shadowiness has gone. Did I spend 20 minutes letting my camera defog, or did the shadowiness just fade because I left the haunted room? I don't know, but let me continue my story. So, I walked out. Hello, hello, is anyone there? The music grew louder. And it was kind of Dracula-esque in its sinisterness. It was electronic. There was no one at the piano, but the music still came, and I was haunted. I knew there was something sinister happening, and I was a part of it, even though I didn't want to be. Was it one of my siblings hiding behind the piano, waiting for the moment I woke up from my afternoon constitutional nap? Or was it something more sinister? We don't have the electric piano anymore, so I can't say for certain. But I've got some ideas, and for my own safety, and the safety of you watching at home, I'm going to keep them in here. Just so whatever is haunting this building doesn't feel threatened. Next, we're going a little old school for this. Old school, maybe a bad word to use, because I don't think I've ever done filming quite like this, but this is what we're here for. I was told as a child that this was a haunted meat safe. As you can see, it's got metal lining on either side. There is a shelf in here. As long as I've known, there's been nothing in there. We just store plates, plastic cups, and some lids, and a funnel for kombucha making. As you can see, there's this little metal grating. Suspicious. And there's this plaque on the top. That will be important later. This cabinetry itself is called a meat safe. So when I was told that this was the meat box, the cold meat box safe, part of the meat safe, as a child I believed it. And I too believed the fact that there was a body part of a cow as a ghost that haunted the house that had been left in this meat safe. As an adult, we come back to this, and in certain lights you can read the fact it says bread, and that the metal box was never a meat safe is something you might consider, but again, who can ever really be sure of these things? We're living in sinister times. The supernatural's just around the corner. I'm not taking any chances. Sleep well, Betsy. Sleep well. So now you've seen some of the more supernatural, steadfast and less movable objects in the house. I wanted to show you a couple of my personal favourites that I can actually pick up and carry around. I'll be right back. Be warned. This isn't for the faint of heart. Hello. We meet again. Growing up in an old house with an old surrounding garden, you learn that people previously just buried stuff anywhere. And I'm talking rubbish. What once was our vegetable garden had originally been the rubbish pit for the person who lived here before local waste disposal was a thing. So maybe it's not surprising that oftentimes during my life I've found some pretty strange things in the garden. Last year alone I found a metal fish dish. It was very strange. One of my favourite and the most haunting thing I've ever found in the garden, however, is this. As you will see from closer inspection, this poor cow is not only missing every single one of its legs, but also both of its horns and part of its mouth. Made in Japan, this cow figure seems innocent enough, and I treasure it greatly. But why was it in the garden in the first place? What happened to its legs, horns, and mouth? Is there a reason? It was cast into the world without a friend? Or was it just misfortune? Bad luck? We'll never know. But I'll always wonder. If you know anything about me, you know that I like to collect a crystal. This crystal happens to be my most haunted. A haunted crystal, you say? What about a purge? What about a moonlit... cleansing? Well, I do put my crystal out under the full moon every month, but it doesn't seem to make a difference. This is a beautiful crystal with distinct colouring and patina. It's really beautiful and I love it a lot, but it's most definitely haunted. Do you want to know why? Come on, I'm sure you do. Just ask me. Good of you to ask. Ever since we brought Mushka, our cat, into the house, he's loved and gravitated towards the table where I display my crystals. And no matter what pattern I put them in every month, this one, without fail, is knocked to the ground. There are some other crystals that will occasionally find themselves on the ground as well, because he likes sitting in the middle of the crystal sphere. Is he drawn to magic? Does he know that there's something not quite right with this beautiful crystal? I don't know. All I know is it's not broken yet, but there's definitely a crack there that could have been there when I bought it, but I don't think it was. And all I know for certain as well is that this crystal is going to be pushed out of the circle many more times before Mush goes through with it. Keep that in mind. Before we move to a new area, I present you this. In 1997, Nintendo came out with a few different series of these. Little holdable Pokemon carry cases. This one is full of dust because it's been sitting on my floor for a while. But otherwise, for something that is from 1997, it's in really good condition. It's a little Pokemon Center with an Eevee and a Charizard. It hasn't been in my family since 1997. It was already second-hand, which, if you ask me, is suspicious to begin with. But the real question I pose here as to why this has supernatural and or haunted tendencies, how is it possible for something to survive the 90s in this pristine condition? Take me. I'm from 1996. This is in better shape than I am. Thus, I think it's haunted. Come with me. We'll go to a new location and scout some new haunted things. It'll be fun. With this not at all sinister backdrop, I bring you some more items. And in the clear daylight of this day, I'm sure you'll be able to see them just fine. We start off with this. This was my toy for a long time, and it sits on my bookshelf now. It never had a name, but it's a little dog, and it's meant to sit down and do backflips, and then sit down, and then walk, and make woofing noises. It doesn't anymore. It's currently on. Is it just out of batteries? The fact that it doesn't have any batteries in it, I think, is suspicious. And I think it also points to a supernatural explanation. Who removed the batteries? Would little Fido work if fresh batteries were inserted into the casing of his body? Or has something ensured that Fido never barks nor flips again? I'll never forget you, friend. Watch parts, and part of a watch. For a long time, and maybe still currently because I can't decide whether I want to stop working with them or not, I worked with watch parts. They're really interesting and they carry a lot of history, and sometimes they break, and that's frustrating. But they're old, they're interesting, and I like making jewellery with them. I also have this, which is part of an old watch. What is it missing, you might ask? The watch face. What happened to the watch face? Would I be able to get it fixed so I could wear it? Because it's actually really pretty. Why did I choose to buy this and a bunch of other things secondhand when I didn't really need them and didn't know what I was going to do for them apart from display them in my house, and very quickly broke a few of them by accident? Where did all these old watch parts and this watch come from? And why do I have them now? Ghosts work in mysterious ways. If you think that that lemon tree looks slightly dead, you'd be right. It doesn't have any leaves, but it still has wick in it, so it's staying. This is a very ornate, colourful, pastel flower vase, and it's currently full of Fake flowers. There was a time in my life about this time last year where I very enthusiastically and boisterously made an awful lot of flower crowns, and these are the leftovers. One time when I was op shopping, I saw this, the vase in which they currently reside. I thought, yes. Oh my god, it says gay on it. Mingay. Mingay. Hey, no wonder I was drawn to it. I saw this and I think it was $4, but a part of me is thinking maybe it was $14, but I don't think I would have spent that much money on it because I kind of hate it, but I also kind of love it. Putting fake flowers into it, I think, increases the kitschiness, and I think also makes me hate it even more. But am I going to change? No, I don't plan on changing. So here we stand. I think for this to have been created, to end up in Tasmania, to say Mingay on the bottom, and to find itself in the home of a pastel-loving queer says an awful lot about the spiritual powers and hauntings of the world. I also just think it's a little too sinisterly outlandish to be completely free of ghost or other intent. Do you remember the little cow figurine with no horns, part of its face missing and no legs that I previously showed and had dug up from my garden? Well, this is a more recent find, and I do not for the life or afterlife of me know what it is. Do I want to know? Not really, because the mystery is abundant. Why did I find it buried deep and forgotten in a really weird corner of my garden along the fence line? What is it? Why does it have a little hole for a screw to go through? Is it a leg of something? What story does this strange metal implement hold? And why did it unveil itself to me? I don't know. But I'm suspicious, and I have some ideas. And finally, I warn you, this final item that I'm going to show is perhaps the most haunted thing I own. Oh no, I've just remembered. I warn you, this penultimate item I own is not the most haunted thing I own, but it's pretty darn haunted, and you might want to look away. It's a little tile painting. You see some chickens, a farmhouse, a little light, and some trees. It's done in black paint with some gold detailing, including a couple of gold chickens, I think. I bought this at an op shop for, I think, 50 cents. Because I absolutely fell in love with it. The only problem was it was mounted on a disgusting MDF board and I didn't know how to get it off. I spent a few weeks with a flat saw sawing to try and detach the glue. And then, because I couldn't, and because it was just taking so long and I broke the first flat saw working on it, I gave up, knowing at one point I would come back to it. That point came about 2 years later when, sick of seeing it stuffed under a cupboard in my bedroom, set aside delicately for later, and going mouldy, I decided enough's enough. I'm going to get it off. My method was perhaps a little rash, but I decided you're either gonna come off or you're gonna break. So I took some pictures, because I thought it was probably going to break, but I would glue it back together. And I can't exactly remember what I did. This is the paranormal coming in. I can't exactly remember what I did, but it was something along the lines of shoving a knife underneath the space I'd made between the board and the tile and livering until this corner here broke off. My plan then was to break the rest of the tile off, glue it back together at the end, and call it a day. I then decided that perhaps this was not a great idea because it didn't break quite as smoothly as I had hoped or anticipated. So I decided to pour acetone down the back of the space in between the board and the tile to try and melt the glue. It made it a little bit easier, but not really. And then I decided just to pop it in the sink and fill up the sink with water and hope for the best. That actually worked really well. The board just peeled off really easily. The back of this was blue with mold. And as you can see, someone's really gone ham on gluing this. You know, I wasn't a fan of the MDF board, but they obviously were. I was able to get it completely off, clean, and now it beautifully sits on my side of our breakfast bar. But the fact that it took over 2 years to get to this stage, with this corner broken and tragically a little tiny piece of the enamel tile plating lost, I think that speaks volumes of the history of this sad, sorrowful and bitter case. Ow. If you've been a long time fan, in which case I am Romy, hi, you will have seen Peaches before. This is Peaches. I bought her from an op shop because I thought she would give my life extra meaning. She does, in fact. I love her. And yet she's definitely haunted. I think I've made friends with her at this point. Whenever I have shown her to someone and said, look at my amazing doll, or they've caught sight of her in my house, people are horrified and don't see her for the true wonder that she is, and that I know she is. I think that this would turn any animatronic, wind-up Christmas festive mouse a little bit nasty, but Peaches has kept a kind, calm spirits. Just sometimes when you touch her, oh, Peaches, your head. Sometimes music just comes out. I think with the mixture of the circling head, the haunting Christmas carol, there's definitely some heartbreak and sinister intentions in the hauntings of Peaches. We've made friends though, so don't worry about me. And on that note, thank you for coming along to the supernatural, the haunted, and the strange mist that the paranormal fulfill my home and some of my treasured possessions with. I've been Romy. This is Peaches. Have a great evening.